the common theme that I've seen is we don't have language and skills to understand our sexual health. And worse yet, we have a hard time understanding it from a positive faith-based perspective because we're often taught in very shame-based ways.
So, hello, Sameera. I'm really happy and excited to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's nice to connect with you again, Fatima. And it's been a while since we last chatted.
Yes, yes, it was. I remember more than 4 months ago. I wanted you on this, podcast and, like video, and we made it, like perseverance, perseverance. So I'm really excited, about this episode. I want to, learn more about you and let people know who you are, like introduce yourself, what you do. Yeah, that would be it, like to start with.
Sure, sounds great. So, I've had an interesting career journey. I have worked for about 12 years at the intersections of Islam, sexual health, and mental health. And I started this work as a school therapist and evolved to really wanting to understand where a lot of issues were coming from. So, really wanting to dive into the root cause, a lot of which is lack of education, lack of language and awareness about our bodies, our minds, and our souls, and then what we can do to nurture that as Muslims. So, over my career to summarize, I've worked in a lot of different Muslim spaces, starting in Islamic schools and mosques, and then organizations and with parents, with kids, with adults. And the common theme that I've seen is we don't have language and skills to understand our sexual health. And worse yet, we have a hard time understanding it from a positive faith-based perspective because we're often taught in very shame-based ways. So after 12 years of working with nonprofit organizations, I was very spiritually burned out and decided that I wanted to start my own work so that I can honor my own spirituality first. And I really think that by doing that, by working on myself, the work itself is now different. I think people can see that. And so that's sexual health for Muslims. It's spiritually grounded sexual health for Muslims, online, accessible, and really helping people dig deep. Not just giving them information and saying, okay, you're good to go, but let's undo all of what we've learned that's not right and has caused a lot of harm, and then learn about it in a different way. So it's a journey.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like a 12-week course and then you're done with it for sure. I think it's good as an introduction, but also for people that, already have experiences and maybe like good or bad experiences, but doing the self-work is always rewarding anyway. So, and especially in this topic, which is, huge in a relationship, with your spouse. So this is like I told you, a topic that is much needed in our culture, and I'm really happy that now people are receptive to it, and we have some experts openly, talking about it, which was, kind of like taboo, before, like years, maybe even 5 years ago, until 5 years ago. So I'm really excited about that. So like you personally, the first question that I always ask is about, the struggles, because from my conversations, as a coach or just as a Muslim woman, I found that, people think they're in an island, oh no, this is my problems. Nobody had the same problems. But basically, no, we had, similar challenges, or we still have, something in common. And it feels, I think, good to hear that we're not alone, struggling with something specific. That's why I always ask this question. So if you can share with us, I always say top 3, but, if you only have 2 coming in mind, your struggles that you had as being a Muslim businesswoman or just a Muslim woman.
Yeah, I think I'll focus kind of on the business side because my work has always paralleled my personal journey. So it's been interesting that way. I think one of the biggest struggles that I face that a lot of Muslims do is that inside voice that keeps popping up, that tells me things like, I don't know if you're going to be successful. I don't know if you're going to make an income, right? Because, you're giving away so much information. Voices that say, oh, that content didn't do as well. Like, what's up with that? And you need to, post more. You can't take a break during Ramadan. You can't slow down.
Yeah.
So that voice has always been with me in personal and professional ways. And the more I gain awareness about it, though, I'm listening to it and I'm really trying to understand it so I can use spirituality to address it. And, that voice also, I think, creates some sort of competition sometimes. Social media has its ups and downs, and being an online platform, that's a continuous struggle for me, is what's the balance between being on social media and dealing with people who expect you to be accessible 24/7. And that makes me feel in, many different ways.
Yeah.
And, sometimes I do struggle with confidence. And that's something that doesn't always come across when people see me doing webinars or on Instagram lives. I try and be vulnerable, though, that I'm a human being with some knowledge that God gave me. And I struggle with confidence. I sometimes have imposter syndrome, right? Like, am I a professional? Do I actually know what I know? Like, just a lot of confidence struggles. And I think that has always been with me personally too. So I think those two are probably, they're not only two, they're big struggles, right?
Yeah,
because our
right.
ego and our confidence are huge to us as people.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, uncertainty is always there. So you especially now putting yourself online. I mean, it's a whole new world, right? Like figuring out how everything works, connecting with people on a digital level. It's really different, I think, from your previous work where you're connecting with, like human beings, like live, But now it's like everything is digital and you have to learn about marketing, about sales. I mean, definitely you're not the only one, especially when you're a solo entrepreneur. You got to do everything by yourself. But something that I've learned, and I've been doing this for years now, is that, do not forget that you're in control. Like, this is, you manage social media don't manage you. But the only way to know that is to, go through it, right? To see like what's your limits. So there is no like right way to do it. It's really experimental. It's all about experimentation and remembering, as you said, awareness is the first step. Remembering that you are in control, that you manage your own schedule. So that's a blessing, but also, not a blessing because you have to manage it the right way.
Right.
So it's really interesting. I'm really curious. So how did you overcome these struggles, if you did, or if it's still ongoing? What makes it better for you to live with it?
Yes, I think what's really helped me, that I didn't realize how powerful this was, but really spiritually grounding myself in my intention. I think I've talked about this before, but my work before my own business was very much focused on my Muslim identity being defined by my work. So I'm working in Muslim spaces to prevent harm and to empower Muslims. Therefore, I'm Muslim, and inshallah, God will reward me. So I need to do more of this work.
Yeah.
And I left nonprofit spaces because that didn't work for me anymore. I didn't understand myself as this work machine. And so the more that I've, taken time to understand spirituality, that we were not created to needlessly give ourselves to other people. We weren't created to sacrifice ourselves. We weren't created to receive approval from other people. I think that is what keeps me grounded. So, as much as I have awareness of that inside voice, I also spiritually ground myself a lot. And I always remind myself, like, what is my intention? Why am I here? My work is my work. It's not who I am. And so as much as I love my work and find joy, I can confidently say that that's not where I get spiritual fulfillment anymore. It's ultimately my relationship with God, and that's, private and personal. So I think that separation has been helpful to manage, the inside voices and to manage the pressures. And actually, that go with the flow feeling has been really liberating. Like you said, social media for me, I love creative stuff. So I'm experimenting, I'm putting stuff out, I'm being vulnerable, I'm kind of trying to be authentic. And I think that's all from being grounded though. I think if I did not have my own time to work on myself, I would come across very differently, kind of like how I did in my past work life. I came across in a slightly different way. So that's been really helpful for me in terms of addressing those struggles.
Yeah. Do you have any practices, to share in addition to the questions that you're asking? What's my attention? What? Because I know that you do yoga also, so that would be nice, I think, for us to learn more about that.
Yes, it's a combination of kind of physical, mental, and spiritual because we're so connected, right? Ourselves are not separated. So yoga has used to be a larger part of my life. It is somewhat now. For me, what's made a huge difference is being in control of my schedule. I'm not on Zoom calls 8 hours a day, and I'm not in a leadership position anymore. All these responsibilities are lifted off my shoulder, which means I can cultivate time for more self-development. So I have like 10 or 12 books that I'm reading all over the place.
Yeah.
I can spend more time in spiritual practice in the morning. I'm not jumping on calls at 9 a.m. I now love riding my bike. So I'm out 2 to 3 times a week, no music, just me and nature. And that to me is very fulfilling. Not during Ramadan, obviously, but not when I'm fasting. And then I think, that control, like you said, has been the biggest factor. I can say to people, I'd love to work with you, and I can't right now. So let's look in the future. This space that we give ourselves externally, I think gives us space internally. And the more that we have space inside, it means that we can deal with challenging things easier. Instead of feeling like our heart is constricted, our heart is now expanded. So that's been, I think, really helpful in terms of actual practices that I do.
Yeah, that's super interesting when you said, I feel you when you said, controlling your own schedule. I mean, this is amazing for sure. And understanding that you have to do the work yourself, to be able to give back. And also you cannot give back from a half full cup. So that's something that I always say. And I think it's really like present in our culture because I see my mom, my aunts, and all of that. Like their definition of giving back is linked with sacrifice. They have to sacrifice everything, exhaust themselves. And then they complain about it. And, no, this is not the way, right? So especially if you're like a helper, if you're a teacher, you spend so much energy on other people that you have to take care of yourself first, to be able to do that the right way and also in the long run is so important. Going in nature, like doing exercise again is so important, so basic, but it's so important. It makes really a big difference. Our goal is like to support ourselves. I think this is the breakthrough that I had this year is not I'm eating healthy to eat healthy, or no, I'm supporting myself so I'm able to do whatever I want, right? So I'm able to have a better relationship. So it's really interesting. Yeah, spiritual, groundedness is really important. And as you said, it's a process. It takes time, but you have to spend the time to do it. It's so important.
Yeah, and I think something I've realized is, so we fill up our own cup to then support other people. And then I think the more I look into Islamic spirituality, there's also this concept of the more that we work on ourselves, that creates this kind of domino effect of how people receive us. So I strongly believe in people's energy, right? That you can kind of tell what people are like, even virtually, right?
Yeah.
And I think what I've realized is the more that I can ground myself, I think I'm indirectly, hopefully helping other people by just being grounded. And that's something that we don't talk about. You know, we always talk about directly helping people through actionable, tangible items or actions. And that's a very narrow kind of Western, non-spiritual, traditional view of things. So I think there's also really just, people will tell that you are grounded. And I think that speaks volumes, because we're in a world where that's not present as much, right? Because we haven't been taught those skills and we're online 24/7.
Yeah, it's difficult to not get distracted or just to be 100% all the time, you know, doing something. So spending time on silence is really something challenging but needed. I think it's a process. It was really difficult for me because I had so much energy that I was 100% all the time, and I was kind of like being afraid of being in silence. You know, I found it really, really awkward and absolutely not comfortable. So now I appreciate, now I need my silence time because, you know, I've done the work. So it's really possible. I mean, as human beings, we're changing all the time. So if we make the decision to improve ourselves in any shape or form, it's possible, definitely. Another question that I really ask, you know, that I really like to ask, you know, people is, if we had a superpower to go back in time, you know, before you made the decision of, you know, I'm going to shift and I'm going to, you know, do my own business and follow this path. So if you can go back in time and meet yourself at that time, what would be, you know, one advice you would give her?
I think I would, you know, tell my younger professional self that like, you need to start thinking about how you're defining yourself. Like, I wish I knew that in the middle of, you know, the work that I was doing, that it was actually causing me more harm than benefit. And I wish I knew that. You know, I wish I had somebody say, you know, you're not your work. You don't owe people anything, ultimately. And you know, I heard that one time, I think, from somebody, and it just didn't land with me. So I think if I were to go back in time, there's a time and place when we're ready to hear things. Right? And I think I kept getting signs a lot, and then all of a sudden, you know, December 2019 was when everything hit. So yeah, I think that would be the advice I give, and then hopefully it would be received when it was ready to be received.
Yeah, I think it's the lesson learned question, because as we do this like personal growth, personal work on ourselves, I think the desire of clarity of who we are, you know, what's our gift, or, you know, what we like to do above everything else is so important. And spending time to gain that clarity is an investment that you do at the front, and it saves you a lot of time and energy and resources, you know, in the longer term. So I definitely, you know, feel you when you said that. And it's a great lesson for everybody's, you know, listening or watching is, do you know who you are? Do you know what you really want? And the only way to get the answer is to stop, go back within, and you already know the answer. And we block it, you know, like with all the social media, or what we, you know, like our parents, you know, success definition were like, no, this is not you. What do you really want? Who you truly are? And it sounds like, oh, woo woo, or like new age, but it's so important, right? Because it defines like your life. So yeah, it's really, really important. I think it's a great lesson, yeah, and a great reminder for sure.
Yeah, I think, you know, as you said, there's a perception that this is like wishy-washy and kind of fluffy.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're talking about Muslim entrepreneurs. So it's important that we understand that we were created to live from the inside out, not the outside in. And a lot of times as entrepreneurs, it seems like we're doing outside in work. And I think we need to shift and say, no, actually it's inside out, and that's the work. and then that manifests externally.
Love it. Coming to an end of our conversation, Sameera, what is one question you wanted me to ask you that I haven't? That's, you turning, choosing, something that you may want to share with everybody.
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe what my hopes and dreams are for the future, I guess, kind of like my vision for this work, because I do have one.
Okay,
it's pretty
so
big, but I do have one.
Let's hear it. So what are your hopes and dreams for the future?
Yeah, if I were to maybe think 25, 50 years in the future, I would love for there to be online accessible sexual health education for Muslims anywhere in the world. I think we this information needs to be integrated into our daily lives, and right now it's kind of reactive and it's a little bit here and I'm in trouble, what do I do? And I just dream of us embracing our faith tradition and saying this is normal and healthy, and let's teach ourselves about our bodies, and that there's resources online that are accessible and compassionate. That's my ultimate goal.
That's a beautiful goal, and I think it's completely doable, because now that education is going online, if there is a topic that we haven't learned, at school, we have so many resources and like social media platforms like YouTube, or even, courses platforms that are, like becoming bigger and bigger, and it enables everybody to create a course and to share their own knowledge. So definitely, I think it's really important for the new generations to have like a healthier relationship, with sex and just marital relationship. I feel like we need that, because our own education was close to zero. You're getting married, good luck, and then you're out of the house, and then you discover everything by yourself. So it's a beautiful thing, and with people like you doing the work, I think we're on route for that, for sure.
Thank you. I hope and pray for that. That's my goal, and I hope that I'm guided towards that.
I mean, yeah, I hope so too, for us, for our Ummah in general, hopeful for my own children, I think it's going to be, good to have this possibility to be educated on different topics at their own pace, but having the real, expert side of it. It's not, like fluff, or like, oh, my mom and my grandma told me, but having these, I think, tools will give them the confidence and the well-being, I think, or just the resilience to go through the challenges that they may, encounter in later years.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sameera. Again, insightful. I love it. Another amazing Muslim businesswoman, doing her thing. So we're here to support each other. I always say, stronger together. And that's why I decided to do these interviews, is to share everybody's experience so we can learn from each other, and also find this support, because we don't have a community, where we just can gather and say, hey, you're doing this. Are you like, I'm suffering from this imposter syndrome, or like I'm listening to this voice. Do you have the same, right? And I think it's so powerful to have the ability to do that on a different side of the world, because I'm in France, you're in America, so, and we learn from each other, and that's I think the gift of technology, and we got to take this opportunity to just boost our success, ourselves, our well-being, and make the world a better place, one person at a time. I think that's the end goal.
Yes. And thank you for all that you do to uplift and support entrepreneurs, and, one-on-one and through your podcast and resources. It's so important to know that there's resources and support, like you said, for Muslim entrepreneurs.
I'm trying to gather you guys, from all over the world, to put you in the same platform.
Yes.
Because I think it's going to be super helpful, because you just want to connect with other Muslim businesswomen. It's like, hey, oh my gosh, I don't have to learn from only white men, or like some other,
right.
So it's really good, because like nobody can identify like with another Muslim businesswoman as another Muslim businesswoman. So that's really, I'm really happy and excited for that. It wasn't in the cards, but it is what it is now because there is a need for that. But yeah, so excited, so excited.
Yeah.
Before we close this conversation, where can people reach out to you, where they can find you? Again, I'm going to share all the links, but let's hear it.
Sure. So, Instagram is probably my most active platform, and my profile is at Sexual Health for Muslims. And I have an awesome website too if people want to book consultations or just learn more about sexual health, sexualhealthformuslims.com. So those two are probably the best ways to find me, and through email you can find me on those two platforms too.
Love it. Awesome. So Sameera, I want to thank you again. Take care of yourself. Have a healthy, and a wealthy, end of Ramadan, whether spiritual.
Thank you.
Fun.
You as well.
We take it. And yeah, I'm excited for the future, and you got to come back. Okay.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Fatima. Wishing you a blessed rest of your Ramadan as well.
You're welcome.